Part 156. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1551. Zuyun was immediately overjoyed and said, Xianxian, are you okay? It's okay, Xianxian smiled, I woke up not long after you left. Your master told me. That's a coincidence. Zuyun also greeted him with a smile. As he approached the formation Immortal, he thought about it again, took out the formation order and said, last time, you said this was a teleportation formation. I tried it with chaos power, and it teleported me to a closed space. Can you see what's so mysterious about this formation? There's no rush, Xianxian smiled and said, I'd better return the original power of this world to you first, otherwise I won't even be able to sleep peacefully. Zuyun was speechless, then nodded and agreed. The array Immortal's eyes condensed, and his whole body turned into a shadow. The next moment, Zuyun felt the world shake, and countless sources of power poured into his body along his feet. The original power of this world was extremely strong, so by the time it was completely returned to Zuyun's control, several days had passed. The formation Immortal transformed back into a sphere again, and said in a slightly tired tone, throw this formation order over and have a look. You don't have any hands now, I'm afraid you won't be able to catch it. Zuyun teased, but still threw the formation order away. The formation Immortal directly swallowed the entire formation order. But a moment later, the formation Immortal spit out the formation order again. Zuyun, this seems to be something from the 5 elements loose Immortal. 5 elements loose Immortal. Zuyun was shocked. Yes, I won't admit that guy's aura. I looked at it before and it seemed that the formation order was not fully activated. But now, I see that the aura of the 5 elements loose Immortal is extremely strong. It must be his. The formation Immortal is extremely certain. Zuyun wondered, did I use the power of chaos, so I have the same aura as the 5 elements loose Immortal? Although you all practice the method of chaos, it still varies from person to person. To be precise, there is pure immortal power on it. Although your chaotic power can be regarded as such, it is not like the 5 elements loose Immortal. So pure. Of course, it's possible that it's because you have the power of destiny, the power of faith, and the power of origin. Zuyun suddenly realized that he had indeed experienced the fusion of chaos power with other forces. The last time, the golden chaos power achieved miraculous results. But when he recovered again later, the golden light was gone. I don't know why, and Zuyun still hasn't found the way. So, this is actually something that 5 elements Sanren got from the immortal world. Zuyun could only guess so. But the 5 elements loose Immortal will specially create a formation order that can only be transmitted to the lower realm. This is impossible, right? And he put down the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra and deliberately deleted the Chaos Fist, and his purpose was also obvious. Among them, Zuyun even speculated that the 5 elements loose Immortal might refine the ascended 5 spiritual root monks into 5 spirits immortal pill for consumption. It was confusing again, and Zuyun really couldn't figure it out. Fortunately, he has experienced a lot and doesn't think about it anymore. I came here this time to solve the problem of the confined space. Then there won't be any problems with this formation order, right? Array Immortal said, at least I don't think there is any problem at this time. But what is certain is that you can use other spiritual powers to teleport to different places. This array order has a total of 6 teleportation changes, and the 5 elements spirit 5 kinds of power, 1 kind of chaotic spiritual power. You can try it when you have time. Zuyun understood and wanted to say something else, but Xianxian spoke first and said, okay, I'm going to sleep now. These days, I'm worried to death. After that, he no longer paid attention to Zuyun, but flew straight to the isolated island in the World Sea. Only then did Xianxia step forward and said with a smile, I also went back to the 7-star section after this incident. During the tribulation period, everyone only followed me, and they all said they would learn my 7 ways from me. Zuyun smiled and said, congratulations to master. Okay, stop flattering me. Xianxia glared and said, just don't make trouble for me in the future. My old bones can't stand being torn apart. With that said, he waved and left. But Zuyun suddenly remembered something and said, Master, then senior brother yet? You mean Yezi? Xianxia stopped and guessed what Zuyun was thinking, and said, I don't care. You see what he thinks. Zuyun understood and decided to ask Yezi another day to see if he was willing to come to the world of Dazhu. Although, the laws are not yet completely perfect, and heaven does not allow anyone to ascend here. But at least, the current universe world can be said to be the safest place. After bidding farewell to Xianxia, World Tree and World Mountain also transformed into human forms and came to Zuyun. After Xianxia woke up, he terminated the relationship with them. During these days, it was thanks to their efforts that the world of Dazhu became stable. Knowing that Zuyun had something to do, World Tree and World Mountain just said hello and returned to their places again. Zuyun ordered them to stare at the totem pole and then left. The last time I discovered their location through Fen Tianyang, they were heading towards the imperial city of Qingping Immortal Kingdom. Now I don't know where they are. Zuyun curled his lips and glanced towards the sky. Nothing. But suddenly, a voice sounded between his forearms. Master, do you want me to try? You. Zuyun was stunned for a moment. Fen Tianyan. It's just a ball of heavenly fire. Master, I was born to meet the burning sky sun, and this burning sky sun is a complete world day. But now, your universe world is not complete, and I can also be regarded as an incomplete burning sky Sunday. Maybe, can I? What you said makes sense, Zuyun smiled and said, it's better not to talk about it in the future. Fen Tianyan originally thought that Zuyun would agree, but he didn't expect that he changed his tone in the second half of the sentence, and couldn't help but feel anxious. Master, as soon as Nanggong Tianli came here, I restored most of my memories. What he wanted from me was actually to create the sun and moon in the great universe glazed mirror, so that there would be day and night. The law of day and night. Zuyun spit out these 4 words suddenly. Yes, Fen Tianyan said as a flame suddenly shot out from his forearm, so, my mission is to become the sun of the universe. Zuyun was silent. To be honest, he didn't want this to happen. From the memory of the incarnation of chaos, we can know that Fen Tianri was a dead creature without any thoughts at that time. Everything is done according to the rules. Rising in the east and setting in the west, spreading endless sun fire. This is why Fen Tianri finally lost the control of the incarnation of chaos, did not follow him out, and was destroyed in the ancient demon dragon formation. Master, please do it. At this time, Fen Tianyan spoke firmly again. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1552. Today's Fen Tianyan is indeed of little use to Zuyun. Also during this period of time, the realm has advanced very quickly. This also has a great relationship with the universe world. The laws of the universe were gradually perfected, which allowed his strength to advance by leaps and bounds, and at the same time, Zuyun no longer had to refine pills. And you? Zuyun pondered for a moment and said, how sure are you? While speaking, he also released Fen Tianyan from his forearm. Fen Tianyan transformed into a human form and said with a confident smile, Master, you should ask how long I need. Are you 100% sure? Zuyun was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, okay, how long will it take? This, Fen Tianyan touched the back of his head, I don't know either. Zuyun was angry and laughing, but he also knew that Fen Tianyan had made up his mind, so he simply said, "That's fine. However, I'll say something ugly first. If you can't succeed, don't blame me for catching you again, give me the alchemy and the weapon. Don't worry, master, I won't be able to wait for that day." Fen Tianyan patted his chest hard. "Do you think it's that simple?" Zuyun still had a smile on his face and said, "The rotation of the sun and the moon represents the laws of the universe. The laws are related to my practice, so if you make me feel that it affects my practice, I will find a suitable one. The sun fire will replace you." Fen Tianyan immediately shrank his neck and said, "Master, if you want to find a suitable sky fire, you might as well find the moon opposite me. In this way, the moon in the universe world may appear faster against you." Zuyun immediately thought of the demon moon that had appeared in the secret realm of Xianxia, and asked, "How should I find it?" Now that MOU is missing, he can only look for a replacement spiritual object. But in this aspect, Zuyun was completely puzzled. "This is just the opposite of me. I don't know about the other things." After all, the former immortal emperor didn't figure it out either. Zuyun glanced at him and scolded with a smile, "If you say it, you haven't said it. Don't say it again." It seems that Fen Tianyan is a little reluctant to leave. Maybe from now on, he will never be able to chat face to face like this again. They sat opposite each other for a whole day. "Master, it's almost time. This is the time when day and night exchange, and the power of the law is at its weakest. It's time for me to go." Fen Tianyan stood up and cried as he spoke. But as a heavenly fire, he couldn't shed a single tear. "Why are you crying?" Zuyun cursed and said, "It's not like we'll never see each other again. No matter what, I miss you and will go to heaven to find you." Fen Tianyan burst into tears and laughed, then turned around. Instead of rising straight up, he flew towards the extreme east. Zuyun did not keep looking, but also turned around and ran towards the direction of Qingping Fairy Kingdom. A few days later, when he reached the imperial city, he met City Lord Shui. "You made me look for you so hard." Zuyun stroked his forehead and said to City Lord Shui. Zhou Pao floated up from the ground and said, "I've met the master." Seeing the shadow suddenly rise and turn into a human form, Zuyun faintly caught a flash of light in his heart. But right now, that's not what he was thinking about. "Zhu Xian, I really didn't know you were looking for me." City Lord Shui also looked ashamed. "It's not urgent," Zuyun said, not blaming him for this. "I need you to go out with me." "Go out?" City Lord Shui was stunned. Of course he knew what going out meant. This was once the place that everyone in the entire Qingping Fairy Kingdom wanted to go. "Well, I was transported to a strange place by a teleportation order, and I would like to ask for your help." With that said, he took out the formation order and handed it to the formation immortal. After the formation immortal took it, the immortal roots on his forehead also bloomed. But soon, the light faded away. "This formation order is obviously a teleportation formation order," City Lord Shui said bluntly. "However, the law of space in it cannot be fully seen because the laws of the universe world are not perfect. You really need to go out and have a look. Can't you see?" Zuyun frowned, because the formation immortal told him that this teleportation formation order could go to 6 different places with different spiritual powers. Because of this, he was sure that it was something belonging to the 5 elements Sanren. But Xianxian can't see it? Although he is not an array master, he has a unique talent in the field of space. The space immortal root is the best proof. This is the blessing of Qingping's heavenly way. "Zhu Xian," City Lord Shui naturally heard Zhu Yun's tone and said with a smile, "This formation order does not belong to the world of the universe. It belongs to a different space. Naturally, I cannot see the corresponding purpose. But you don't worry, as long as I go out with you, it will be clear where we are and where the formation belongs." "I see." Zuyun suddenly realized that the array immortal didn't make any great sense, but this straightforward explanation made sense. It's like a formation disk. The formation is spread in the spirit world, but he is in the universe world. Even if the formation disk is worn out, he cannot control the formation. Although it is not the same, it is the same principle. Then let's go. Zuyun put away the formation order and prepared to leave. But Zhou Pao suddenly said, "What about me, master?" "You." Zuyun was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "Where are you used to?" Zhou Pao thought for a moment. Originally, I thought that the immortal king of Derong was dead and the Qingping immortal kingdom was stable, so I wanted to return to King Derong city. But this time, I followed City Lord Shui to the city of Derong King. But I no longer feel that way. Since you're not used to it, it's not impossible to stay at the center of the universe. Now, the world of Dazhu is under Zuyun's control, and Zhou Pao has gained Zuyun's approval through a series of actions. So Zuyun didn't care where he was going. "I don't know," Zhou Pao frowned and said, "Master, I don't want to ask for anything, but I want Master to give me some guidance." Zuyun smiled and said, "You and I have different cultivation systems. How can I give you some advice? If you are really confused, why not take a walk around the world of the universe? Maybe you will gain something." This. Don't worry, Zuyun knew what Zhou Pao was thinking and said, "In matters in the spiritual world, the chance of failure is not high, so I don't need to trouble you. If it is possible, I still hope that you can practice with peace of mind. You can go back to the Dazhu Center and tell Zhou Gun this." "Thank you, Master." Zhou Pao bowed, and at this moment, he finally understood. Although he called Zuyun Master, in fact, Zuyun never really regarded him as a servant. "Go ahead, maybe you can still find your own path in the universe." Zhou ran away, but Zuyun found that the feeling he had from the previous thought became stronger. But he still didn't care too much, there were more important things to do in front of him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1553. This is it. Zuyun took City Lord Shui directly and left the world of Dazhu. However, Zuyun did not receive a response for a long time. When he looked carefully, he found that City Master Shui had his eyes tightly closed and did not move. It's like falling asleep. Zuyun thought for a moment, then stopped disturbing him and just looked at City Lord Shui quietly. After an unknown amount of time, City Lord Shui suddenly said, "Zhu Xian, please show me the formation order." Easy to say. Zuyun stuffed the formation order into his hand and used the divine eye technique at the same time. In the darkness, Zuyun saw City Lord Shui constantly stroking the formation order. After a long time, he suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, Zuyun seemed to see light in his eyes, and couldn't help but feel happy. Obviously, City Lord Shui had completely seen through this formation order. "Is there anything to say?" Zuyun asked softly. "Yes," City Lord Shui smiled slightly and said, "the formation immortal is right. This teleportation formation order can be teleported to 6 places. One place represents the land of chaos. The other 5 places are gold, wood, water, and fire. Earth is the land of the 5 elements. The land of 5 elements." Zuyun frowned. He had not tried using other spiritual powers. But before, Mu transformed into the wood spirit power and sent him into the misty mountain forest. Mountain forest. Does it represent the land of wood? As for the other places, Zuyun cannot judge for the time being. But is this land of chaos, this seemingly void space? Zhu Xian, where we are at this time is the main place of this formation. However, you don't need to worry, either you can use other spiritual power to teleport out, or you can just break through this place. While he was thinking, City Lord Shue's voice sounded again. Break directly? Is there no formation here? He couldn't help but exclaimed. It was precisely because he was afraid that there would be another mystery here that he entered the world of Dazhu to find Lord Shui. Zhu Xian, you are actually a little bit off the mark, City Lord Shui said with a smile. Array orders. Array orders use this order as an array to teleport people. Previously, it was also the array immortal or me. Is it because of the teleportation formation on the ground that you have such a misunderstanding? My formation skills are not as good as those of the formation immortals, but in terms of space, I think there are few people in the immortal world who are better than me. City Lord Shui was extremely confident and said, so, this is just a marked place, there is no formation at all. Here, you only need to break it, don't worry. Hearing this, Zuyun also nodded and said, then I'll be relieved. City Lord Shui smiled and said, Zhu Xian, I haven't completely arranged the teleportation arrays in the major royal cities and the center of the universe in the universe. Why don't you send me back first? Good work. Zuyun was not polite, he said thanks and raised his hand. City Lord Shui disappeared into thin air in front of his eyes. Zuyun, on the other hand, put away his formation order and looked straight ahead. The mountain wall that he crushed a little bit revealed a little bit of light coming in. Taking a deep breath, he took a step forward, concentrated the power of chaos in his hands, and pressed towards the gap again. Crack! This time, Zuyun's entire fist reached straight out. Is this mountain wall so thin? After being stunned for a moment, Zuyun continued to stretch out his palm and quickly made a hole for people to get out. And when he got out, he couldn't help but froze in place. There is an extremely familiar atmosphere flowing in the air. Before my eyes, I saw a familiar image. This is obvious. It's Barren Rock Mountain. And the place he was on was the platform where he fell off the cliff. Indescribably wonderful? What is so wonderful about Barren Stone Mountain that we need 5 elements Sanchi to say this? While he was muttering, he looked back. Suddenly, he suddenly remembered. Barren Rock Mountain. This is Immortal Crystal Mountain. He has taken many fairy crystals here, and even the fairy crystal mine is still here. Thinking of this, Zuyun's figure flashed, and the next moment, he appeared there. The 16 big characters left by Yayong are still visible. Not far away is the fairy crystal mine. It's wonderful, indeed, in the words of the 5 elements Sanren, the immortal crystal can be absorbed as the power of chaos. In this way, the effect of the 5 elements elixir refined into the immortal world may be even better. Zuyun's face turned grim again. Nangong Tianli hides in Huangming Xing, the 5 elements immortal plots against Huangming Xing, and Qingping immortal kingdom wanders into Huangming Xing. Even Yayong arranged for the ancestor of the Lin family to be in Huangxingxing. This Huangming is just a yellow-level world star, which can be regarded as the lowest level of the lower realm in the fairy world. Why is it so popular? Zuyun stroked his forehead, unable to figure out the key. With a sigh, he still got into the mine, dug out a few immortal crystals with his own hands, and then entered the immortal mansion. The fairy mansion remains the same. But Zuyun was surprised to find that the fairy crystal in his hand actually bloomed with light. This is... He took a closer look and saw that the power in the fairy crystal was continuously flying towards the outside of the cave. It's like the spiritual power of the lower world is attracted by something. Zuyun squinted his eyes, but still chased out of the cave. After seeing the whereabouts of these immortal powers, he once again realized something in his heart. Immortal mansion does not refer to the residence of the immortal emperor. But, a mansion that exists with immortal power. Everything requires immortal power. In Zuyun's understanding, what can control the power of laws is immortal power. Whether it is the power of chaos, the most refined and pure power of the five elements, or some other wind, poison, thunder, and lightning. The fairy power in the fairy crystal is the purest fairy power and can be transformed into power of any attribute. At this time, some of these immortal powers flew to the medicine garden, some flew to the bedroom, some flew to Sword Mountain, and some even crossed Sword Mountain and fell into the Hualong Pond. At the same time, the connection between Zhu Yun's mind and the immortal mansion can also help him discover the changes in the immortal mansion. If the fairy mansion is a house that has been abandoned for a long time. So at this time, this house gradually came to life. The most obvious. It was Zhu Yun who saw in the medicine garden, the fairy medicines were frantically absorbing the fairy power. An idea appeared in his mind involuntarily. If I move the entire barren stone mountain to the immortal mansion, then does that mean? But as soon as the thought came to his mind, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. He grew up in barren stone mountain. Not only have his ancestors been buried in barren stone mountain for generations, but many of his neighbors also live in barren stone mountain. Of course, this could drive them out of barren rock mountain. But the problem is that Zhu Yun can't do anything for his own selfish reasons and let others leave their hometowns. It seems that we can only dig up all these immortal crystals and bring them to the immortal mansion. Zhu Yun only thought of this one solution that was not a solution. Because he didn't have anything to hold the immortal crystal. The ring doesn't work, and neither does the storage bag. That's all, let's talk about this later. Zhu Yun shook his head, gently placed the fairy crystal in his hand on the ground, and then walked towards the bedroom. He came here this time just for Mengwei. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1554. Zhu Yun, you are finally here. As soon as Zhu Yun walked to the door suddenly opened, and Mengwei looked at Zhu Yun with a smile. Did the fusion succeed? Zhu Yun was very pleasantly surprised. He couldn't see any changes in Mengwei, but he could feel that Mengwei had an out-of-this-world temperament. Although, he had an extraordinary temperament before. But the feeling it gave him at this time was completely different. Successful, Mengwei smiled, and suddenly stepped forward to hold Zhu Yun's arm, blowing softly and saying, "Do you like it?" With such straightforward words and such a charming tone, Zhu Yun couldn't help but tremble. I. Mengwei chuckled, knowing that Zhu Yun was still not used to it, so he retracted his hand and said, "Zhu Yun, this is actually my nature, we demon women dare to love and hate. Just like that. It's a pity that the original Nujiao was so unconcerned with Nangong Tianli. Is it a pity that Nangong Tianli is just using Nujiao?" Zhu Yun also had an expression on his face. "Yes," Mengwei sighed, "I got her complete memory. Nujiao is also a pitiful person." Zhu Yun thought of another woman at this moment, Mu Qingxin. Poor people must be hateful. Nujiao has the inherited evil eye, but she saw the wrong person. It's not that she was wrong, Mengwei objected, it's that she was deceived by Nangong Tianli before she could use the magic eye in the future. You mean, Zhu Yun narrowed his eyes and said, Nangong Tianli has actually wanted to attack the holy demon tribe for a long time. To be precise, he should attack the entire holy demon clan. But I don't know why he is doing this as an immortal emperor. Mengwei also frowned slightly. Although she seems to be talking about others, when she talks about Nujiao's past, she will be affected by some memories. Zhu Yun looked into the distance and said, because Nangong Tianli, he is not a human race. Mengwei knew Zhu Yun's guess. But she didn't know Nangong Tianli's true identity. Are you trying to say that those who are not of my race must have different minds? Mengwei couldn't help but think of the relationship between himself and Zhu Yun, and his voice trembled a little. Because essentially, there is no difference between her and Nujiao. Even if it is through Huang Mingxing's heavenly way, he can become a human with his magic eyes. But in the final analysis, the demon eye still belongs to the Holy Demon clan. Zuyun was keenly aware of Menghui's mood, and thought to himself that you are different. But when the words came to his lips, he swallowed them hard. Because he understands Menghui. Such an explanation will not be useful at all, and may even make Menghui mistakenly think that he is shirk. Thinking of this, Zuyun immediately made a decision in his heart, took a step forward, and suddenly hugged Menghui in his arms. Wei, you are thinking too much. Then, he blocked Menghui's mouth without giving her a chance to speak. When the fire comes, even if it is dry wood, it will burn brightly. For a long time. The devil got off the bed. Menghui's cheeks turned red and he said, Zuyun, I don't say anything. Taking the first step, Zuyun also happily accepted the reality, not to mention that this was his initiative. He was simply venting his suppressed emotions at this moment. As long as you know that I always have you in my heart, that's all. Such soft words of love came from a stupid person, making Menghui feel extremely shy. After his mind calmed down, Menghui said again, I want to say, from now on, do you want me to be a good wife beside you, or do you want me to be a vase in this fairy mansion? After hearing this, Zuyun knew that Menghui was still worried, and Nujiao had been trapped in this room. Fortunately, Zuyun did not have such thoughts. He smiled slightly and said softly, what are you thinking about? I'm looking for you this time for a serious matter. Menghui's face turned red again. He didn't hear Zuyun say anything serious, so he rolled onto the bed. Do you still remember that after I solved the matter in the great universe world, you told me what you saw in the passage between Yao realm and Peepa realm? Menghui suddenly stiffened, and Zuyun, who was lying next to him, felt it immediately. Menghui, who was able to completely recover his demon soul, reacted like this again. One can imagine what kind of terror there is. Could it be that this is why people in the fairy world pay attention to yellow stars? You. Zuyun sighed and said, if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Menghui shook his head and said, I promise you, I will say it naturally. There are countless nightmare demons. What did you say? Zuyun thought about countless possibilities. But I never thought that there would be nightmares there. He knew that the nightmare Menghui was talking about was a real nightmare. It is the purest extraterrestrial demon from the extraterrestrial demon world. Then what are they doing? Zuyun took a deep breath and asked. They are all facing inward, with their backs turned outward, motionless. It seems like they are performing a kind of sacrifice. Menghui raised his head and said, Zuyun, I only know that something terrible will happen there, which may destroy this lower realm. That's why I said, let you leave Huangxing. Even if it's not soar up. Zuyun silently. The evil cultivator issue has not been resolved, and this has happened again. Let me think about it. Zuyun sat up, staring at the ceiling without saying a word. Menghui also stood up and left consciously, fearing that he would affect Zuyun. Compared with the countless nightmare demons, the evil cultivators did not seem so scary. But Zuyun always felt that there might be some loopholes in this. The sacrifice of the extraterritorial demons. The proliferation of evil cultivators. After an unknown amount of time, Zuyun's eyes suddenly lit up. Evil cultivators are evil cultivators, and nightmare demons are nightmare demons. The dangers of both parties did not appear in the same time period. Menghui just told him to leave Huangmingxing as soon as possible, which actually meant that she could not be sure when the strange sacrifice would start. In other words, he had enough time to deal with the evil immortals. If it is possible, then after dealing with the evil immortals, can all the human beings in Huangmingxing be taken into the world of the universe? If it is just waiting to die, then it is fine. What Zuyun feared was that these nightmare demons would capture human cultivators, and then combine with them to give birth to nightmare monsters. The extreme demons could reproduce crazily for the sake of the spirit demon energy. And the nightmare demons were also extraterritorial demons. Would they do the same? Even if I leave, I won't leave anyone behind for you. Zhu Yun's eyes sparkled, and he sat up suddenly, then put on his clothes and walked out of the bedroom. He wanted to tell Meng Wei about this decision. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1555. Wei, I need your help. Zuyun walked out of the bedroom and saw Meng Wei standing at the edge of the medicine garden, staring at the blood ginseng in a daze. The familiar smell reminded her of the longevity pills Zuyun gave her back then. Thinking about it, it was made from the ginseng roots of this blood ginseng. But now, this blood ginseng cultivation base has been absorbed by Nangong Tianli, and he is unable to speak at this time. When Meng Wei heard that Zuyun took the initiative to ask her for help, Meng Wei immediately cheered up. What do you need from me? Her first reaction was that she had agreed to let Zuyun go to the fairy world and stop caring about the yellow star. But when he got up, he quickly realized that he understood Zuyun. Zuyun will definitely not give up on the thousands of creatures in the spiritual world. You first help me destroy evil cultivators, and then, I want to try to bring Huangshi Mountain into the world of the universe. Since there is no way to enter the immortal mansion, we can only fall back on the next best thing. How many evil cultivators are there in this eastern mortal realm? Meng Wei stared at Zuyun. I don't know, Zuyun shook his head. If he had known better, he wouldn't have split up with the rest of the tribulation cultivator soldiers. Zuyun, actually we can bring in the barren stone mountain first. Since you don't know where the evil immortal is, why don't you use this place to make some noise? You mean? Meng Wei's words seemed to point Zuyun in a new direction. Evil cultivators must have a plan to move from the spiritual world to the mortal world. And if you take the barren stone mountain into the universe, you will definitely make some noise. If the noise is too big, it may make those evil cultivators think that you are born with abnormality. Xiang, do you think they will come over to find out? The second thing is that you should do it casually. Sooner or later, you will have to bring people into the universe world. You can also use barren stone mountain to practice first. Zuyun said with great joy, I'm blinded by a leaf, I just want to take it one step at a time. Meng Wei also smiled and said, the authorities are just confused. Then, do you have any opinion on the collection of barren stone mountain? Although the Qingping Immortal Kingdom was added to his universe world, in fact, Zuyun had no idea how it was sucked in. He also had no experience in this. The most that can be said is that the world of the universe was used as a storage space before. Moreover, he must also consider the countless fairy crystals in barren stone mountain. I don't understand this either, Meng Wei said with a smile, but there are so many capable people in your universe, why don't you ask them? You're right. It just so happens that there's no rush at this time. Why don't I take you to the Dazhu world to see it too? Zuyun thought for a moment and agreed. Then he took Meng Wei's hand and led her into the small courtyard. With a flash of body, both of them appeared in the world of Dazhu. Zuyun, your moon looks so weird. Meng Wei was here for the first time, so he couldn't help but look around, and finally looked up at the sky. Aren't the moons all the same? Zuyun smiled, but suddenly, he was stunned. Moon. There is no moon in his universe. Fen Tianyan even asked him to find it. Zuyun also raised his head suddenly and saw that there was indeed a group of light in the night sky. Neither round nor square, you can even see that this ball of light is twisting and seems to be changing. I didn't do anything. Where did the moon come from? Zuyun's face was full of disbelief. You must know that in order to merge with Yang Huo, he paid the price of an incarnation of chaos. Although the incarnation of chaos can later be condensed back into his body, the process is also a matter of life and death. But at this time, Seeing Zuyun like this, Meng Wei guessed something. This law of the sun and the moon must not even be known to him, so he stopped beside Zuyun quietly and stopped making any sound. I know, Zuyun Yu suddenly said, it's Zhou Pao. Zhou Pao? That immortal from Qingping Immortal Kingdom. Meng Wei remembered this name. Well, he is Yin Xianxia. Zuyun also remembered at this time what the light in his mind was when Zhou Pang said goodbye at the end. Burning sky flame dominates Yang, Zhou Pao dominates Yin. And the moon that is constantly changing is obviously Zhou Pao's transformation. I just don't know what he has gone through to be integrated into the laws of the universe like this. I know Qingpingzing, Meng Wei naturally had memories of Qingpingzing, and said, the reason why they are called immortal roots is because they are easily affected by the laws of the immortal world. Therefore, their monks are he will be called an immortal. Perhaps, this Yin immortal root may have reached the shackles of cultivation and transcended the way of heaven here. And itself, the way of heaven in the universe is not perfect, so he simply integrated into the law and became your moon. If my guess is right, Zuyun, will you still be here someday? Zuyun smiled bitterly and said, the sun has changed by 2. Maybe you will be able to see it when it gets dawn. Can I change it today? Meng Wei also widened his eyes, his beautiful eyes sparkling. But then she thought about it, she had never experienced the world of refining, and there were enough things she didn't know. Yes, it was Qingpingzing's day at first, but then. Zuyun glanced at Meng Wei and said, later, he was replaced by Feng Tianyan. Feng Tian. Meng Wei was surprised again, and Zuyun told Meng Wei the reason for the incident. I kind of understand. Nangang Tianli also wants to refine the great universe glass mirror into the world, and Fengtian is what he plans to use to become the sun of this world. But having said that, Fengtian is also from Qingping Star, and Zhou Pao is also from Qingping Star. As for Lianji Avenue, Yin and Yang go hand in hand, and they also complement each other. Perhaps it is such a coincidence that the law of Yin and Yang of the sun and moon here is its taking shape. Meng Wei sighed again, it's really God's will. Zuyun was silent, and the two of them stopped talking about the matter and walked towards the center of the universe. Because he wanted to include Barren Stone Mountain, Zuyun first found World Mountain. Meng Wei sat on the shore of the World Sea, staring into the distance in a daze. If you collect a mountain, you can place it next to me, but you said, if there are fairy crystals there, I can't guarantee whether there will be any conflict with the original power here. World Mountain also turned into a human form and stood beside Zuyun. This was beyond his capabilities. World Tree pondered for a moment and said, actually, it's not impossible, but I'm afraid it will make me temporarily unable to take care of the entire world. The world of the universe will not change again in a short period of time. Zuyun raised his head again. After seeing it for a long time, the moon not only shifted a little to the west, but also became much smoother. By the way, do you know how Zhou Pao turned into the moon here? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1556. Is that Zhou Pao's transformation? There was a look of shock on the faces of World Tree and World Mountain. They are responsible for this side of the world. But the sun and the moon both belong to the sky, which is really a place that their original power cannot take into account. Besides, the laws of the sun and the moon also belong to the way of heaven, and may be transcendent from their existence in a certain way. You don't know. Zuyun was also speechless. We know that the sun and moon appear here, but we don't know that they were transformed by Zhou Pao. The World Tree gave a bitter smile and said, the mountains will be less sensitive to this aspect, but our World Tree is extremely affected by the sun and the moon. During the day, it swallows the yang power and spits out the yin power. At night, it swallows the yin power and spits out the yin power. Yang force, so that this world can achieve a balance of yin and yang. Then Rik appeared during the day. Zuyun also remembered Fen Tianyan's last appearance. He did not see Fen Tianyan running into the air. I saw it. It was similar to this moon at that time. It also changed from an irregular shape to a round shape slowly. It was not until the sun set that we discovered that this moon was rising from the east. Did you just show up too? Zuyun secretly thought that this was a coincidence. If I came earlier, I wouldn't know there would be such a change. It was too late to arrive, and I would not have guessed that this moon would be Zhou. The outside world is full of evil cultivators. If we are more confident, I will go out and move the barren rocky mountain in. As Zuyun spoke, he suddenly remembered and said, I remember that Xianxia mountain seems to be a flying mountain outside the sky, maybe the problem of bringing it in is not big. If it comes from the outside world, it will definitely not be big, just like the Qingping Fairy Kingdom. World Tree's eyes also lit up and he said, Qingping Fairy Kingdom is actually also rejected by Huang Mingxing, but Huang Mingxing's heavenly law is not strong, so it cannot be stopped. In addition, maybe the Kunlun Mountains you mentioned before. Zuyun was surprised. You think Kunlun Mountain can also be included? There is just a possibility. In fact, if Barren Stone Mountain can do it, then Kunlun Mountain is certainly not a problem. Zuyungzi said, then I can naturally give it a try. He also suddenly remembered that Kunlun Mountain inexplicably connected the spiritual world and the Dongsheng realm. If Kunlun is directly sucked away, it will definitely cause strange phenomena in the world, and it will also attract some evil cultivators to come, thus catching them all in one fell swoop. Then you must be prepared. Zuyun took a deep breath and said goodbye to the two of them. Arriving at the seaside of the world, Zuyun smiled and said, Wei, it's time for us to go. Meng Wei looked at his face and knew that Zuyun had gained something, so he responded. After passing the Immortal Mansion, the two arrived at Barren Stone Mountain. Seeing the 16 big characters left by Ye Yang on the stone wall, Meng Wei couldn't help but stare at them for a long time. How do you plan to settle the people here? Zuyundeo said, we are all fellow villagers. It's just that it's been a long time, so maybe they don't recognize me. But I should still be easy to talk to, right? He was not sure. If his words didn't make sense, he would have no choice but to act forcefully. At this time, it had been 70 or 80 years since Zuyun embarked on the path to immortality. If Zufeng had listened to him, the heirs he would have left behind would have been old enough to become grandfathers. Let's go, I'll take you to the place where I grew up when I was a child. The village has not changed much, it is still the same. Zuyun led Meng Wei all the way down, and soon reached a mountain road. After turning a few turns, they stood at the entrance of Xianxia village. The appearance of the two people attracted the attention of many people, who all cast curious glances. The Chuchen's temperament was different from all the monks they had seen. But no one dared to approach. Some children were running around in the open space with bare feet, looking very much like themselves back then. Wei, I used to be like this, running around the village with Big Dog and 2 dogs. Hearing this, Meng Wei couldn't help but smile. In contrast, she has been practicing in Yaluo Mountain since she can remember. At this time, several children suddenly struggled together. Make you crazy, make you crazy. 3 boys in their teens pinned a smaller one to the ground and punched and kicked her. Zuyun was stunned for a moment, but Meng Wei smiled and said, you shouldn't have been beaten like this when you were a child, right? How is that possible? Zuyun curled his lips and said, back then, we were the only 3 who bullied others. If anyone dared to offend us, even if they couldn't beat us face to face, they would definitely suffer losses later. For example, if we stole their chicken in the middle of the night, roasted it the next day, and then threw the chicken feathers into the clothes of the bully. As soon as he finished speaking, the baby who was pinned to the ground shouted at the top of his lungs, "I'm crazy, I'm crazy. If you dare to hit me today, I will definitely take revenge." "Ha ha ha," a child laughed, "it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge in 10 years. Do you plan to take revenge in 10 years? "Nonsense," said the child, "I have a grudge that lasts all night. If you have the guts, beat me to death. Otherwise, I will steal your chicken tonight, rip off the chicken feathers and stuff them into your crotches." Zuyun opened his mouth. How could this kid want to steal a chicken? Mengwei on the side also smiled even more happily. "How dare you be so crazy," the child said angrily. "Chickens are an important source of food for mountain people like them, and are specially used to lay eggs." This kid was still being beaten, but instead he was threatening them. "Take out your ancestral sword and let me play with it, and we will let you go today." You, my ancestor was an immortal master. If I gave it to you, wouldn't my Zhu family lose face? If you want the sword, why don't you go to the Zhou family to get it? Blessings to the family. Zhou family? Zuyun couldn't stop laughing. Who dared to fall in love with this chicken-stealing kid? Or was he the queen of the Zhu family? As for the Zhou family, it must be the Ergu family. "Hey, do you think I'm stupid?" The child sneered. "Grandma Yu of the Zhou family is a big shot outside, and Aunt Lingshan is also an immortal master. How dare we provoke it? On the contrary, you keep saying that your Zhu family is also an immortal master, but that sword, if you don't show me some tricks, how would I know that your ancestor is an immortal master? It's not because you're bragging to scare us, right?" "Wow," the child couldn't help but said angrily when he heard that he was bragging, "My grandfather said that my great-grandfather and his two brothers are both very powerful immortal masters, and Grandma Yu has to bow when she sees them. You are not ashamed of your words. I will ask you if you will steal the sword tonight." The child became impatient when he saw that the Zhu family's little baby refused to eat. He shouted, called to the other two companions, and was about to smash it down with his fist. Bang! 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 3 sounds came, followed immediately by 3 miserable screams. Mengwei glanced at Zuyun and said coquettishly, "You want to interfere in the fight between children?" "Hee hee," Zuyun chuckled twice, "Save your strength, save your strength. Who told the 3 of them to scold us, the Zhu family, for being homeless?" After saying that, he strode forward, stepped on the secret of immortality, stood in front of the Zhu family's baby, and said calmly, "Who dares to bully me? There is no one in the Zhu family. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1557. He suddenly became childish and found it very fun. He did not use his spiritual power at this time, but only used the steps of Changshengju. The main reason was that this great-great-grandson of Zhu Feng had quite the style of Zhu Feng in the past. Unfortunately, Ergu and Daegu did not leave any descendants, which made him somewhat isolated and helpless. Adults bully children, you have no shame. A child cursed with tears on his face, covering his fist. The people of Huangshi Mountain are all knowledgeable. Zhou and Yu Lingshan still come back occasionally, and the villagers know it. Can't adults bully children? Zuyun smiled evilly and said, "You bully my family, can I let you do it?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zuyun found that his descendants were secretly trying to leave. As a result, Mengwei, who had quietly arrived, grabbed the back of the neck and teased Zuyun, "This kid runs quite fast, quite like you back then. Let me go, let me go." "Who are you?" The kid was frightened, his body hanging in the air, constantly struggling. "What's your name?" Mengwei asked with a sweet smile. "This is the descendant of the Zhu family, so I seem to be a grandmother." Thinking of this, Meng Wei's cheeks turned red. My name is Zhu Pinggan. The kid still had the spirit of not admitting defeat, and choked Meng Wei. Meng Wei naturally would not be angry with him, but he held his hand tighter, smiled and looked at Zhu Yun, and said, "You are from the Zhu family, you really don't spare your mouth." Zhu Yun smiled bitterly, "Can you blame me for this? If you really count, he is from the Zhu Feng lineage. Unless what? Meng Wei's heart skipped a beat for no reason. You are shameless, adults bullying children. At this time, an old man rushed out of the house with anger, holding a carrying pole in his hand. "Grandpa, save me!" The little kid in Meng Wei's hand shouted loudly. The old man kept staring at Meng Wei, but when he ran to him, he suddenly saw Zhu Yun. The carrying pole in his hand fell to the ground instantly. You are my uncle." Zhu Yun was stunned. "Do you recognize me?" He had never shown his face in front of Zhu Feng's descendants. I recognize you. There are portraits of you and my father at home." Zhu Yun suddenly realized that this was not strange. But the question is, where did his portrait come from? And when I met Zhu Feng again, the heirs left behind were still young, right? To put it bluntly, Zhu Feng had abandoned his wife and children. "Uncle, it was Aunt Zhou who left a portrait for our Zhou family. My mother said that my father left without saying goodbye, leaving only a sentence that he would follow you to pursue the immortal path. There was no hope for the family, so my mother came to the Zhou family." "So that's it?" Zhu Yun understood, but he felt a little uncomfortable. Logically, he had cut off his mortal world. But for some reason, hearing these words at this time still affected his mind. "Let's talk about it when we get back." Zhu Yun would not show anything on his face, and he would no longer pay attention to the other three children. "Yes, uncle." The old man was extremely respectful, and Meng Wei also put the little kid down. But knowing that Zhu Yun was really his ancestor and his great-grandfather's brother, he couldn't help but peek from time to time. The house was still the same, and on the way home, Zhu Yun also knew the names of the two. Zhu Feng's son was named Zhu Lin. Zhu Lin's grandson was named Zhu Xiang. Zhu Lin did not mention his son, and Zhu Yun did not ask. The courtyard was still the same. Zhu Yun was reminded of Zhu Rong, and his expression was a little depressed. Meng Wei approached quietly and whispered in his ear, "They will all enter the world of the universe in the future." With just this sentence, the uncomfortable mood disappeared instantly. "Wei, thank you." Zhu Yun smiled, and his thoughts became clear. He sat on the chair in the main hall. "I am Zhu Feng, I believe you all know. She is Wei, my wife." He also used the mortal name. "Nephew Zhu Lin, meet aunt." Zhu Lin hurriedly wanted to kneel down, but was held up by Meng Wei with spiritual power. After all, the other party looked older, and Meng Wei was a little uncomfortable. And this aunt made her feel shy again. "How has the village been over the years?" Zhu Yun asked Zhu Lin. "With Aunt Zhou taking care of us, the village is very peaceful. Even some immortal masters who come here don't dare to force us to buy or sell." Zhu Yun nodded, stood up and said, "I came back this time because I found that there might be changes in this desolate stone mountain, so I want to inform the neighbors and ask if they are willing to leave." "Leave?" Hearing this, Zhu Lin was stunned. Zhou Ruyu was a very important figure in their eyes. No matter what cultivators came to desolate stone mountain, they were all very polite and didn't dare to cause trouble. How could there be problems? "Yes, leave," Zhu Yun said bluntly. "I have great magical powers and can move the entire mountain to another place. But as you can see, not many people in this village recognize me, so I want you to inform the rest of the villagers. If any of them have entered the mountain, they should not go out again during this period after they return to the village." This. Zhu Lin showed hesitation in his eyes. He was just a mortal and didn't even remember Zhu Feng. He couldn't imagine how big this so-called danger would be. Zuyun smiled slightly and said, "This is just a notice, and I am not following your opinions. Zulin, you must understand this." Zulin was also awakened by these completely non-negotiable words. Zuyun is an immortal master, why would he discuss it with them? "Uncle, our Zhu family is of this lineage and can leave with you." But in fact, several families, especially the Zhou family, may not necessarily agree. "So what if you don't agree?" Zuyun smiled lightly and said, "When Ruyu sees me, he will also call me brother. In addition, Ruyu's biological brother is also there, you can tell them." Zulin took a long breath and said, "If the Zhou family is also willing, the other families will be fine. Then it's best. Please inform me. I will use my magical power to move this mountain in the next few days." In fact, Zuyun can let Huang Xishan enter the universe world with just a thought. The biggest problem is how to integrate Huangxi Mountain into the world of the universe. In addition, the disappearance of Huangxi Mountain out of thin air will definitely attract evil cultivators. Therefore, he still needs to be prepared at the foot of the mountain. "Yes, uncle," the nephew goes and informs them now. "Go." Zuyun waved his hand, stood up and took Meng Wei in his arms. Then, the two disappeared out of thin air. Zhu Xiang was so shocked that he rubbed his eyes vigorously, as if he had seen a ghost. In fact, if he didn't need to prepare, Zuyun wouldn't bother to come over and tell him. "I just thought about the benefits of doing this, so that they would not cause panic after entering the universe world. Wei, I will go around the foot of the mountain and set up a star-moving formation. When the time comes, you will be responsible for bringing people into the formation, and I will be responsible for killing them in the formation." At the foot of the mountain, Zuyun began to set up a formation, while Meng Wei temporarily protected Zuyun. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1558. Huangxi Mountain occupies a very large area. Although it is just an independent mountain, it covers several miles. Even with Zuyun's strength, it would take a lot of time to arrange it. Because of this, he used up all the spiritual stones on his body and had to run into the world of Dazhu and dig up many in Qingping Fairy Kingdom. By the time the arrangement was completed, millions of spirit stones had been used, and several days had passed. "It's finally better." Zuyun also felt tired. He had been tense for a long time and was exhausted mentally and physically. The advantage of Dochuan Xingxi is that it is not limited by the number of spirit stones. But the disadvantage is that the more spirit stones there are, the higher the chance of errors will naturally occur. "Wei, you go to Barren Stone Mountain to see how the villagers are doing, and I'll go to Lingjian Sect to see how they are doing." Zuyun planned to discuss this matter with Zhou Ruyu and the others, and secondly, he made an appointment with Leng Bing at the Lingjian Sect, and he hadn't even gone yet. "Okay, let's meet at the foot of the mountain then." The two separated and went their own ways. Not long after, Zuyun appeared in Lingjian Sect again. When he stepped at the gate of Lingjian Sect Mountain again, a thought came to his mind. Should he also take Lingjian Sect over? But then, he threw the thought out of his mind. If we accept this and that, we might as well accept the entire Dongfan realm, why is it so troublesome? But on the other hand, even Zuyun in the entire mortal world does not have such great ability. Otherwise, there is no need to worry about evil cultivators and the countless nightmare monsters in the Yao realm passage. After entering the Lingjian sect, Zuyun immediately noticed the cold aura and couldn't help but feel happy. However, he did not rush to find Leng Bing, but found Zhou Ruyu and Yu Yulin first. "Brother Zhu, do you really want to move Barren Rock Mountain?" Facing these two people, Zuyun naturally could not talk about the world of the universe. He just told them that an evil cultivator was eyeing the barren stone mountain. In order to ensure their safety, the barren stone mountain was moved to a safe place. Brother Xiaozu, does that mean that everyone in our village will also leave with the mountain? Zhou Yu also said. She still has a very deep memory of barren stone mountain, and she often went back there in the past. This is also because her realm is not high and her lifespan is limited. It doesn't matter anymore if you stop mundane things. Well, we have to leave. What, you want to leave too? Zuyun smiled. If Zhou Yu wanted to leave, it wouldn't be a big deal. He just had to go to Barren Rock Mountain and wait. However, she still had to step down as the leader of the Spirit Sword sect. Brother Xiaozu, Zhou Yu pursed his lips and said, Yulan Xiaoyuan and I are only more than 30 years old. No matter how hard we practice, we can't break through. On the contrary, Lingshan is more talented than us. Simply, I will give the sect master, the position will be passed on to her, and Yulin and I will return to the village to retire. Zuyun was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, okay, but I don't have much time, so you should hurry up and make arrangements. Thank you, Senior Brother Zhu. Thank you, Brother Xiaozu. The two said in unison, and Zuyun also left, but he went to Yezhi first. Senior Brother Ye, although Yezhi is not as good as him, he is Yesuan who is son after all. He calls him Senior Brother to show his respect. I've come to the mortal world again this time, what can I do? Yezhi smiled, and most of the injuries caused by the natal magic sword had recovered. Master asked me, do you want to go to where he is at this time? My dad. Hearing this, Yezhi couldn't help but be stunned. We've been apart for a long time, and we really haven't seen each other much. Well, I asked Master, and he meant that it's up to you to choose. Yezhi smiled and said, then ask him if he can help take care of the children. Zuyun was also stunned for a moment, and then said happily, Senior Brother, have you found a Taoist companion? Yezhi winked and said, logically speaking, you should be faster than me. It's easy for you to become a father, but if you want to find a Taoist companion, that's not necessarily the case. The two of them immediately smiled knowingly. At this time, Leng Bing also walked out of the mist formation. Zuyun, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Where did you use that teleportation formation order? Actually, I've been nearby a long time ago, I just ran some errands. Zuyun turned around and said with a smile, have you ever encountered an evil cultivator? I didn't encounter any, but I found some clues. I came along the coast and found that except for the Spirit Sword sect, there were no monks left. When he said this, his cold face was extremely solemn. It seems that evil cultivators have indeed invaded the East Mortal realm, but I don't know if these evil cultivators will only hide in Yunzhou. Among the 18 states in the Yao realm, Yunzhou has the poorest spiritual energy. According to the urine nature of the evil cultivators, it is indeed the most suitable place for them. Perhaps, by taking away the barren stone mountain, it is really possible to lure them out. They should be hiding in Yunzhou, are you ready? Leng Bing agreed with Zuyun's statement and nodded. We're ready, but this time, we have to bring a few people with us. An hour later, when Zuyun saw Lian Nishang behind Yezhi, he felt mixed feelings in his heart. This woman with outstanding talent and a single fire spirit root had been of great help to him. But unexpectedly, he and Yezhi would end up together. But that's fine. Going to the world of the universe might open up a new path to immortality for her. Lian Nishang nodded, and Zuyun looked at Yu Yulin and Zhou Yu. Behind them, there was Yu Lingshan with tears in her eyes. Girl, don't cry, it's time to say goodbye. Zuyun smiled and comforted him. After thinking for a moment, he took out a spiritual bead from his storage bag and said, no, this is for you. Thank you, uncle, I will definitely practice hard and carry forward the Spirit Sword sect. Zuyun smiled and said, as long as you do what you want, it will be good. After saying that, he took out the flying boat and everyone went up as usual. Zhou and Yu Yulin were a little reluctant to part with their daughter. But now that the decision has been made, everything that needs to be said must have been said. Let's go. He called softly, and the flying boat took off into the sky, turning into a flash of golden light and disappearing from everyone's sight. Not long after, they arrived at the bottom of the barren rock mountain. You can all go up to barren rock mountain. Except Leng Bing, Zuyun asked everyone to go up the mountain. Just in time, you can come to my house as guests. Zhou Yu greeted Yeziyi and Lian Nishang with a smile. By then, we should be able to meet again, right? Yeziyi stared at Zuyun. It's definitely possible, Zuyun smiled and waved his hand, just in time to catch a glimpse of Mengwei coming down the mountain road. After the separation, only 3 people were left here. Leng Bing no longer hesitated to speak, and said in a deep voice, Zuyun, there should be evil cultivators from the spirit world hiding in Yunzhou. Zuyun had already guessed it, nodded and said, I have set up a big formation, are you ready? Leng Bing grinned, Leng is already so hungry and thirsty. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1559. Wia, take fellow deist Leng into this formation. If an evil cultivator breaks in, you can use the magic eye to guide him. Yes. Mengwei responded, and then stepped into the formation. Zuyun took a deep breath, rose up, and stood on the top of the desolate stone mountain. Then, he connected his mind with the universe, and then put his palm on the highest point of the mountain. Original power. With a low shout, an extremely powerful force slowly surged out of his palm, rising from the top of the mountain and spreading downward. Soon, these original forces covered the mountain from top to bottom. As long as the entire surface of the desolate stone mountain is wrapped in the original force, Zuyun can easily take the desolate stone mountain into it. After a long time, the original force spread to the middle of the mountain. Below the mountainside, no grass grows. But under the effect of the original force, some green shoots faintly emerged between the cracks of the stone. The barren stone mountain has existed for a long time. In fact, some tree and grass seeds have fallen down, but because of the characteristics of the mountain, these seeds cannot grow at all. But now, patches of green began to slowly spread. Such changes naturally attracted the villagers in the barren stone mountain. Xianxia, this is Xianxia. Many people exclaimed. Their ancestors have lived here for generations. Isn't it that the mountain has been abandoned for a long time? While talking, some people also subconsciously looked up at the top of the mountain. Look, there is someone there. It must be him, Immortal Master, the great Immortal Master. This brings vitality to our barren stone mountain. For a moment, they looked up with great respect. What a fuss, Zhou Yu stood on the open space in the village and said lightly, that's brother Xiao Zhu. Grandma Yu, are you talking about the great-grandfather of the Zhu family? A child wiped his nose and said loudly. Yes, it's Zhu Xiang's great-grandfather. All of a sudden, all the children who had bullied Zhu Xiang were scared and hid behind Zhou Yu. On the other hand, Zhu Xiang stood up carelessly, I told you, my ancestor's immortal master is very powerful. Come over here one by one and give him a kick. Zhou Yu glared at him, don't bother me, or you'll ruin little brother Zhu's good deeds. Yes, Grandma Yu. Zhu Xiang retreated, but his eyes kept rolling around, and no one knew what he was thinking. Maybe he knew that he had a powerful backer. Go back, don't embarrass yourself here. Zhu Lin slapped him on the forehead, causing everyone to laugh. Knowing that the powerful immortal was a villager from Huangshi Mountain, they naturally relaxed a lot. After all, Zulin had greeted him before, and Mengwi came over to show his magical powers later, so they naturally believed it without a doubt. While Zuyun was concentrating, the vitality driven by the power of the origin gradually spread out. This is a power that does not belong to this world, and it is not weaker than the power limited by the heavenly Dao. Naturally, it was discovered by some evil cultivators hiding in Yunzhou. In the misty mountain village, there are strange phenomena in the world, and I feel a huge power. A cultivator with an evil look and four sword eyebrows above his eye sockets said. Four-brow Taoist, do you want to use that power to help you trigger the heavenly tribulation here? Another evil cultivator said with a smile. Of course, the mortal world originally belongs to the spiritual world, and it is not impossible to trigger the heavenly tribulation. In comparison, the heavenly Dao of the mortal world is weaker, and it is easier to prove the Dao and ascend. Indeed, it's a pity that we set up the 10,000 evil blood array here, and these 10,000 mortals were killed in vain. Another cultivator stood up, wearing a strange Taoist robe, and from time to time, red lines like array patterns appeared. Who said it was a waste of killing? If we can't attract them over there, we can come back. Besides, at worst, we can just go and kill some people now. These ants can help us achieve the heavenly Dao, which is the blessing of their 18 generations of ancestors. There are 5 evil cultivators in the tribulation period here, and they were attracted by Zuyun's golden body. In addition, it is close to the strange place of misty forest, so they chose to set up the formation here to attract the heavenly tribulation. At the same time, Southern Sea City. The streets are empty, but there is a cold blood. More than 10 evil cultivators flew out of the tallest building in the city. The power over there is very strange, maybe it can help us achieve the Dao. I believe that other fellows have also discovered it. Why not go over and join in the fun? What if we get a bargain? Hee, I like to get a bargain the most. Of course, if I can't get it, I can't let them get it. Let's go, at worst we can come back. Such a scene happened all over Yunzhou, and then spread to other states. As the evil cultivators arrived, they all found Zuyun on the top of the desolate stone mountain, and immediately understood that the incident was caused by Zuyun. They couldn't guess Zuyun's way, but they knew the desolate stone mountain. Among them, many evil cultivators actually came to the desolate stone mountain to find mortals. But this desolate stone mountain gave them a very strange feeling. If they killed people here, they would probably suffer some kind of backlash. That's why they didn't attack the desolate stone mountain. As for the Spirit Sword sect, it was because of Yezhi and the protective formation. The evil cultivators were all in groups of 3 or 2. Yezhi was in the nascent soul stage and was also a sword cultivator. If these people wanted to take down the Spirit Sword sect, it would not be difficult. But they were selfish by nature and were afraid that they would be taken advantage of by others. That's why they looked for other places. It can be said that the entire Yunzhou, in fact, apart from the Spirit Sword sect and the desolate stone mountain, there were almost no mortals. All became sacrifices for these evil cultivators to trigger the heavenly tribulation. This kid is weird. The closest and earliest evil cultivators initially thought that Zuyun was also an evil cultivator, which was why they used this evil method that they could not understand. But after observing for a long time and observing clearly, they could see that it was not the case. So, these evil cultivators wanted to catch Zuyun and ask him what was going on. But the Dozhuan Xinyi formation had already started, so they plunged into it. In this way, many evil cultivators were trapped in the formation. They could not affect Zuyun's efforts to cover the barren stone mountain with the power of the origin. In fact, Zuyun had done something similar before, which was to refine the 10,000 Swords Mountain with spiritual power. Although it was not exactly the same, it was almost the same. As time went by, more and more evil cultivators were trapped, and after a few days, he almost covered the entire barren stone mountain with the power of the origin. Almost done. Finally, Zuyun stood up suddenly, and with a thought, the barren stone mountain began to shake and rumble. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1560. And as the vibrations in barren stone mountain spread, centered around it, the entire Yunzhou seemed to be affected. For a moment, all the evil cultivators who were still on the way became anxious, fearing that they would miss such a natural phenomenon. Zuyun also discovered at this time that there were many evil cultivators surrounding this place. He couldn't help but show a mocking smile, and then raised his hands upward. Boom! Under his control, the original power suddenly lifted the entire barren rock mountain upwards. When all the evil cultivators focused their attention on him, Zuyun had a thought in his mind. Boom! This barren stone mountain disappeared out of thin air in front of everyone's eyes. But underneath the ground, a huge sinkhole was left. Before Zuyun could come to his senses, the entire Yunzhou suddenly changed dramatically. In the sinkhole, countless majestic spiritual powers surged out crazily, and Zuyun was knocked over without noticing. And these spiritual powers shot straight into the sky, forming a huge purple pillar of light. Suddenly, all the evil cultivators seemed to be going crazy. Have they ever seen anything like this? This will definitely cause heavenly tremors. If you miss this opportunity, you may have to wait for several years. They rushed towards this side one after another. But the battle formation was surrounded by people, and they plunged into the formation. But despite this, these evil cultivators went on and on as if they had not noticed it at all. Looking at Zuyun again, he had a look of shock. At this moment, he remembered the Yunzhou chronicle he had seen. 3,000 years ago, the war between good and evil caused Yunzhou's earth veins to break and the spiritual energy to deplete. Could it be because the barren stone mountain broke the earth veins here? Or are there other reasons? But in comparison, the spiritual power of other states in the Yao realm far exceeds this. And while he was thinking, something happened again in the East Mortal realm. Originally, after Xianxia mountain was taken into the universe world by him, the vibrations had stopped. But as the spiritual power pillar soared into the sky, the vibrations started again, even stronger than before. Zuyun knew that this was not his fault. But soon, he vaguely guessed a fact. This spiritual power is stronger than anywhere else in the Eastern Mortal realm. Although it is not as good as the spirit world at this time, there is a faint tendency to reach balance. Bifan realm. Like the Northern Mortal realm, the Eastern Mortal realm must be connected to the spirit realm. So, is this shock because the entire Eastern Mortal realm is about to cross the Wild Sea? Outside the formation, countless evil cultivators arrived one after another. Zuyun did not count them in detail, but he also knew that they were in the thousands. With such a huge number, it would be difficult for Lengbing and Mengwei to deal with it. In addition, these spiritual energies are still impacting the Dozhuan star movement formation. If the formation is destroyed, all his arrangements will be in vain. Find them first. Zuyun quickly recovered his thoughts and entered the formation in a flash. As soon as the figure appeared, a crisis followed. An evil cultivator. Court death. Zuyun snorted coldly, and a star suddenly appeared behind him, blocking the monk's attack. Die. While drinking, the star bloomed with thousands of rays of brilliance and quickly penetrated into the evil cultivator's body. Bang! The stars exploded, and the evil cultivator's body also exploded with it. Blood energy spreads in the void. Zuyun's mind moved, and the entire formation emerged in his mind. He immediately discovered that several evil cultivators were surrounding Mengwei and Lengbing. Snort. Zuyun turned around, the formation rotated, and the next moment, he was standing between the two of them. Wish Yun. Both of them were overjoyed, and their expressions immediately condensed. Originally, they worked together to kill many evil cultivators. But when the number of evil cultivators increased and various methods emerged in an endless stream, they became overwhelmed. It is true that due to the limitations of heaven, the realm of these evil cultivators was suppressed and they were brought to the same level. However, these evil cultivators had so many methods to stop them, and their numbers also created suppression. Menghui's magic eye also took a certain amount of consumption on her. The power of the holy demon needs to be restored on the demonic jade bed. At this time, use a little and use less. It doesn't matter, leave it to me. Zuyun smiled slightly and stretched out his hand to dance. Countless stars surrounded them, blocking all evil cultivators. Have you done something good? Len Bing asked quickly. Well, however, there was an accident. We need to get out of here quickly. Zuyun also looked at Menghui and said, you go back to recuperate first. After that, he directly took Menghui into the immortal mansion. Len Bing was not surprised and said, Zuyun, what are your plans? I have planted millions of spiritual stones here, but this formation may be destroyed at any time, so before that happens, just detonate this formation. This. Don't be afraid, Zuyun said with a slight smile, I can control my power within a certain range. Listen to you. Len Bing had no choice. As soon as he responded, he and Thorn Demon were sent outside the formation by Zuyun. Seeing the sky-reaching pillar of spiritual energy and the boundless vibrations on the ground, even though he was in the stage of transcending tribulation, his heart felt extremely cold. You go to the spirit sword section if you can, help them block the aftermath as much as possible. After saying that, Zuyun also retreated several miles, and then controlled the Dozhuan Xinyi formation to make all the stars inside explode at the same time. At this time, he was not afraid of damaging the earth veins. Because, if the East Fan realm is connected to the spirit realm, there is no need to worry about the exhaustion of spiritual power. Think about the North Fan realm, isn't it the same? Under Zuyun's control, millions of spiritual stones exploded at the same time. Although not as powerful as the self-destruction formation. But these spiritual stones are also top-grade spiritual stones. The spiritual power contained in them cannot kill evil cultivators with one, but what about 10, 100, or 1,000? There are only more than 1,000 evil cultivators in total. He has 1,000,000 spiritual stones, and each evil cultivator has to bear the spiritual power of 1,000 top-grade spiritual stones. Boom. 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 Zuyun also casually blasted a black tortoise fist, using the black tortoise phantom to help himself block the aftermath of the spiritual power. But the vibration of the ground was even stronger. It spread to the entire East Fan realm. Even in the passages between Yao realm and Peepa realm, many demon cultivators suddenly looked towards the south. What's going on there? I don't know. Our bloodline memories have been awakened, and we can't care about anything else. We must release all the other bloodline descendants left by our ancestors before the 5 continents of Huangmingxing are reunited. Yes, Patriarch. Everyone shouted. The Patriarch raised his head. It turned out to be the leader of the Demon Seal sect, Nangong Yin. And beside him, stood a petite figure who was silent. Xiu'er, do you want to violate the ancestral precepts in your bloodline? Seeing that Nangong Xiu had no reaction, Nangong Yin couldn't help but shout coldly.